Looking at your top 8 from the first Genesys Open event. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more content. So the overall participation of this event, I think, is the most interesting part of this. We had 6.2% being Exosister and Odion, which were pretty much predicted to be some of your stronger fields. Vanquish Soul took up 4% of the overall field. And then we had Onomat and P.U.N.K taking up 3.5% of the field. Now we also had White Forest, Lunalite, and Generaiders, probably some of the stronger other rogue picks here, all at 3.11. And then we had Eldritch and Megalith, along with Fire King, Archmage, and Genesys, all at 2.67. And then you have a field that is completely open at 53.78%. Is all just all other sorts of decks for Farfus event. Like, that's kind of crazy to think about that that's your field of info that you're working with. Now, your top 8 here is kind of interesting because your most represented deck in top cut is actually Odion. Now, I think most people kind of have the same thought here that Odion feels like an incredibly powerhouse deck in this format. You know, the control options and the aspect of all that, it actually ends up being very, very strong. Now, P.U.N.K has a lot of its toolbox still intact. I mean, yeah, you don't have like link monsters, but I mean, that's fine. Same thing with Vanquish Soul. I mean, Vanquish Soul lost a lot of its canine, brokenness during the last list, but you're seeing a little bit of that shift around here, kind of trying to counterbalance the deck. Generator, I'm not surprised to see this deck doing well. I mean, this is just by far like the definition of this. Megalith got new support. We also had Archmage in here. Archmage seems to do very, very well in these events. And also, Onomat and Xyz making its way into the top cut here as well. Absolutely is quite wonderful. Now we're going to pass on over to deck lists. All right, so top deck list here. These are actually posted from Deck Devil in the Genesys format Discord. So we have your, well, not surprised to see the man with the mark getting the chance to do his thing. Now, one thing I will say about these deck lists, since this is a 1-out-of-1 format, they don't have to put points into their side decks. So this might skew deck building a little bit when it comes to much later results, but Super Poly's definitely getting a lot of the job done. You do see we're also playing Ultimate Slayers in here. Ultimate Slayer in a format like this is also not all that scary, man. You're going to be looking to kind of rip apart a lot of the options that the opponent has. I also do see, playing one Temple of the King in here. Going with the Dominus package in here on your trap lineup, I also think works out very, very well. Also, 2 Meteor Logic to be able to send to rip apart Exceed monsters. I mean, this format's definitely a very Exceed-based format. So once you're getting that control aspect going, it's going to be good. We also have our Vanquish Soul list. Now, obviously, disregard the side deck because this is a 1-out-of-1 format, but you do see that we are supplementing a lot of our packages with the Vanquish Soul stuff, or the Rescue A stuff. Having those extra fire monsters, it's going to be very good, but you're also going to notice there are really no canine monsters in here, which is kind of something interesting to think about because a lot of people are like, well, you need Vanquish Soul cards to make this deck good. No, you don't. Obviously, Pot of Extrav is going to be your real supplemental value in this deck. You're going to be using that to kind of tear through the extra deck. You do see that we are doing some Silent Honor Arc and Numbers Exceed stuff down in the extra deck, which is definitely okay. Also, the fact that this deck's going with Crow, we're also playing 2 shifters in the main. Having the point allocation, this is pretty good. I do believe they were talking about wanting to play an extra Curry Kara from what I was reading. We also have our next Odion list. Now, what's really cool about this list is we are playing Fleur de Lis, the Thunderbolt in here. So this list is going to be a little bit different of an idea than what we've seen previously here, where you're going to be looking to use those Dogmatica punishments to kind of control the field, throwing a Garou or an Ince to be able to get some of that extra value tends to be what, you're wanting to do. You want to get that advantage, and you want those power monsters to be doing your thing. You also are playing triple extra. So yeah, you're going to be sacrificing a lot of your extra deck here to generate more of that advantage. That's going to be the whole point of this deck. We want to get further in. We want to be able to find those key cards and just be able to start getting that advantage rolling in our favor. I mean, that's what Odion's always going to be about. You know, you put up these very strong trap boards and tell your opponent to get good. All right, we've also got Megalith. I did not expect to see the level 12 Megalith making a monstrous splash here, but surprisingly enough, Megalith is, I think, probably one of the scarier decks that you can pick up right now because, well, one, a lot of people just don't know how to react to this deck. You know, the deck cycles through and does all of its crazy boards, but you also have by far a very strong boss monster in the form of the Nothrim Plora, which is your, you know, your new boss monster. What is it? You reveal this card this turn, your opponent can activate cards or effects in response to the activation of Megalith ritual monster effects. Yeah, that's going to be a huge thing. And then when your opponent activates card or effect, you can negate that activation to destroy that card. And then if the negated card or effect target a card on the field, tribute one monster your opponent controls. Yeah, for a boss monster, this card does a lot. I'm just going to have to tribute 24 levels if you know you want to do it the hard way. We also have access to P.U.N.K in this format. You know, P.U.N.K being able to have the Psychic End Punisher and Generaider is kind of a stupid thing to think about. Now, this build actually kind of takes us back into the past where, you know, we look at Gold Pride as the original option fodder for this deck, you know, and especially you can manipulate this deck by giving your opponent life points. Tends to get a little bit scarier on things. That way, you know, you're kind of triggering up those effects and starting to generate that advantage. I also see that we have a full armored package in here as well. Being able to use the Stepping Stone Exceed package to kind of help you out is really strong in a deck like this. I greatly appreciate that. But yeah, looks like P.U.N.K is going to be a very strong choice. Also, the fact they're going with Gammas in here as one of their hand trap packages. A little bit unexpected to be seeing that. Then, of course, we have Archmage. This deck stands as one of the scariest decks in this format because Archmage systematically just builds boards for really no reason. Now, obviously, in modern constructed format, Archmage doesn't really get the chance to do that, but this deck also, as you can see, we're playing Super Poly in here in Fusion deployments. I actually kind of appreciate the fact that, you know, Fusion deployment can allow you to bring out the Blazing Cartesia, which then you can kind of start to use as kind of like starting up like the fusion side of the deck. We're also going with the triple Cosmic Cyclones in here. Being able to use Cosmics to rip apart your opponent's field is going to feel like a very strong key part of what this deck wants to do. And also, look at your fusion deck, man. You have so many key fusion cards in here. I also like the fact that they do have the Sylvia in here. Just, you know, depending on what somebody's bringing to the table, you can very easily kind of super poly into and rely on to kind of break a board. And then we have Onomat. The fact that 7 Tachyon is like a free card in this format is such a crazy thing to think about. Now, I do see that we have what appears to be quite an extensive extra deck of things here. We're also playing like the hyper rank up stuff in here. You're dedicating a good chunk of your extra deck to like the Utopia stuff though, as you kind of should be, right? Because you want to be using the Utopia stuff to kind of be those power play lines that allow you to kind of climb up to and to play your game. And also, I mean, you've got plenty of key Exceed monsters to go into, especially being able to reveal for 7 Tachyon to, you know, go find whichever piece you want. Hand trap wise, I see that we dedicated pieces to the Droll and Lockbirds. We have the Meows in here. We also dedicated some slots to actually seeing Skull Guardian in here. I think I'm a little bit more impressed to see Skull Guardian getting an opportunity to come up, but I mean, you got a lot of cool pieces. This was a deck I didn't expect to see. And then we have a Generaider. Man, talk about triple potted greed. I mean, hey, you want to draw as many good cards as you can to be able to kind of put your opponent on the timer. Ultimate Slayer is going to be using that extra deck to clean up, you know, all those things. I do see the Garua and the Molong here. Wonder how long until Ultimate Slayer starts to get pointed out of this format, because that's kind of starting to feel like a little bit of a broken card. I see we're also using that TCG exclusive level 9 Fire Monster to our advantage here as well, but this looks like an absolutely fun tournament. I hope that this guy helps you guys, you know, kind of find yourself into a better direction as well. So I'll leave a link down below to the Genesys format Discord so you guys can join it and check out more on this format. Patrons! Thank you! Ah!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.